And we are live. Welcome YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and my favorite, LinkedIn. Welcome to another episode of the Rise and Grind Show, building your brand, how to add value, profitability, and purpose on and off the clock. I am here. I'm your host, Duncan Harrison. I'm here with my main man, Jay Tyler, live from Qatar. Please tell them who you are.
Peace and blessings, everybody. My name is Jay Tyler, here today. Very happy for the panelists to come on, the audience and the building. And without further ado, Duncan, if you don't mind, let's do what we came here to do. You dig?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, listen, I am very excited. We have an awesome group of panelists here today to talk to you about how to build your brand. And so, I think let's get right into it. I want to introduce our panelists, and if we could have Miss Jennifer Cho introduce herself first, please.
Sounds good. Thank you both for having me on the show today. So my name is Jennifer Cho. I am currently the founder and CEO of Pivot and Swerve. It's an integrated marketing consultancy, and I'm hearing a little feedback, but so it's an integrated marketing consultancy born out of COVID. I think everybody understands that. Happened in June, and I had a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to work for the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. So executive produced their content, brought their annual legislative conference to life, got all of the talent on our show for BET, and just working in the space. So prior to that, I was a general manager and executive vice president at Weber Shandwick. I have an integrated marketing background. So I worked for a technology firm, marketing a lot of sports, all of the sports leagues, and then also have a background in experiential marketing, which is where I met Justin. So that's all that connective tissue here. Yes. But my first foray into my career was actually working in the music industry. So I know my brand probably doesn't reflect this, but I owned a rap label. So CVD for those that are in my age group. And I'm super excited to be here and talk about brand. So thank you.
Wow, that's actually awesome. Yes. I thought about a battle rap career, but I don't think I would have been too successful. But I definitely watch it all the time. I definitely watch Smack all the time. So thank you for that. Next up, if we could have Dr. Jason Otley.
Okay, what's going on, everybody? Great to be on the show. Thank you, Jay Tyler, Duncan, for inviting me. My esteemed panelists. Great to have all of you here. As well, talking about building your brand. And that's something that has not come overnight, right, for any of us. And we've all probably have been through enough seasons of doing it wrong to finally do it right. My background is education. I have served in all facets of education, from K-12 as a teacher, as a principal, in higher education now as a college professor, and I've served at various admin roles over the years. I created the Bond Educational Group a couple of years ago, which is a nonprofit organization that focuses on the underserved communities through entrepreneurship and education. And so as you look at the statistics, and even if you're from in the inner city, quite like me, the streets of Washington, D.C., education and entrepreneurship are not anything that is really fostered or strengthened within the community, because you're really just trying to survive. And so many other suburban or maybe even some rural areas, they don't have that same struggle in survival the way that inner cities do. And so it's so incumbent that we create opportunities for our communities to thrive in areas in education, not just access, but be able to succeed and finish. And then also entrepreneurship. The Black community is the largest consumer in the nation, but they also have the smallest number of small businesses in the nation as well. And so our work is cut out for us. We have a phenomenal team, and I'm just great to be at the helm leading the Bond Educational Group.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Definitely important that we continue to see our communities, definitely, in DC and across the country, move onward and upward. Very nice. Yes, sir. Next, if we could have Mr. Jeff Billingsley.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you guys for having me on, and want to just give a shout out to all the fellow panelists. My name is Jeff Billingsley. I'm CEO of Cobblestone Multimedia. I'm based in Newark, New Jersey, but our reach is global. I actually founded the company with my partner, Marcel Green, as an independent record label. So when you mentioned, Jennifer, when you mentioned the music industry, I have roots, a lot of roots there, still do. But our company basically produces music, film, television content. We produce music that we license for film and television. And one of the most important things that we do as Cobblestone is we develop and run several programs, apprenticeship programs that teach young people, underserved young people and adults that may be dealing with reentry, returning back to the community from incarceration, about all the entry-level opportunities that exist behind the scenes in the music, film, and television industries. And we do that so we can hire them or teach them about how to become entrepreneurs in that field. In addition to that, I actually also am the co-founder of the Newark Business Hub. My partner, Kimberly Williams, and I work to help galvanize creative entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs in general through partnerships that we have with Rutgers University, the Business School, the Center for Urban Entrepreneurship and Economic Development, and even in New Brunswick with the Office of Continuing Professional Education, in which we offer online entrepreneurship training and a certificate program. And we look to be able to help entrepreneurs that's been in business 2 years or more to become more profitable and scalable, but really around building generational wealth and having equity and ownership. And in the city of Newark right now, we have over $5 billion worth of redevelopment happening, and we can't be the 1% that's not participating in that. We make the cities cool and everything else. So, you know, we want to be able to have entrepreneurs collaborate and elevate their game so they can participate in opportunity. Another business I own is a merch online e-commerce site called whereisthatmoney.com. It's really focused around this. What I have on my chest is entrepreneur life.
Right.
We talking about branding any and every opportunity that I get. I am a walking billboard in regards to me being a brand myself, but the company is really to help inspire people through different types of branding on shirts and everything from mugs to onesies to whatever we actually look to target. We want to have positive affirmations about using entrepreneurship as a vehicle for being empowered. And my day job, I work for Rutgers University. I'm an assistant director at Rutgers University in Newark, assistant director of communications.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I think you hit the heart when you said, where is the money?
Yeah,
whereisthemoney.com. Jay Tyler, you want to hit him with a little Dr. Umar?
Yeah, hit the Cash App, everybody. Hit the Cash App. You know,
that's right. That's right. Hit the Cash Apps.
The Cash App. You know what I mean? There you go. There you go.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So next up, we have Grace Alfero.
Oh, hello, everybody. So I run a consultant firm called Arts in Action, and we provide strategic planning and grant and research proposal preparation for nonprofit organizations. I describe myself as an ally and an advocate for social media issues and work daily to find funding for organizations that are serving marginalized populations. In 1995, when I was 29 years old, I started a nonprofit organization because I knew a little bit to be dangerous and started the organization with $1,000 it was a cultural arts center for persons with developmental disabilities in St. Petersburg, Florida. And I grew that organization to the point where we were in 3 different communities in the South. And we grew our budget to over $2 million and resigned from that position in 2012 to move to the Northeast, where I live now, very close to the New Jersey borderline. I'm in Pennsylvania, but I do a lot of work in Trenton and Princeton and in Philadelphia and actually all over the country, and just really, really try to connect funders, with organizations that are doing innovative work in different communities. And so I'm just so pleased to meet all of you and to hear. And Jeff, I have to tell you that when you described everything that you do, I thought I worked hard, but you make me feel like I'm standing still.
Facts. Facts.
So nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Duncan.
Oh, yes. Glad to have you, Grace. Thank you. Thank you. And so next up, we have Miss Angel Morris.
Hey.
How are you?
First, forgive me for my tardiness. So it wasn't that I didn't see the time. I was like rushing, trying to get back home. Thursdays for me is what we call the Give Back Delaware. And the Give Back Delaware is an organization that I began the very day after the Delaware shutdown for the pandemic. And we now, every Thursday, we service, or we try to, we service first responders with free meals for the weekend. So I was trying to hurry up and drop off their food and get back in time and make myself look like I wasn't cooking all day. So, so forgive me for that. Again, my name is Angel Morris, or Chef Angel. I love all of the credentials you have. I was sitting over here making little tally notes, like, how many things is he gonna say? How many things is he gonna say? So, for me, I am just man, I'm just a person who loves to cook. I say often, I'm the cook they call a chef. I don't necessarily put that title on me, but everyone else puts that title on me, which is just fine, But the base of this conversation is I started my catering business about 12 years ago. And everything that I've done has all been hustling.
Nice.
Like, everything has been a hustle. And it's always been, I'm just gonna fight to the death of it. I'll sacrifice everything that I have to make this dream possible. And now I'm to the place where I have teenagers who work with me, who I allow them to work on my food truck so that they can gain skills like right on the spot. A lot of them go to culinary schools or went to tech high schools and things like that. So whatever it is that they're learning, I allow them to come onto my truck and practice those skills. So that's one thing that I do. I was able to open up my first food truck during the pandemic, which was amazing. I don't necessarily, yes, I do have my own business. I come from an educational background, which is where I met Justin. I was a teacher for 7 years. I first started out in administration, which is where I met Justin. And then I transferred over to teaching. And ironically, I was a music teacher. I taught chorus. I sang a little bit.
She could definitely sing.
Whoa, hold on now.
That's why I kind of started laughing a little bit,
You may have to sing a little something in a second. We're gonna let you finish. But you go ahead and end this with a little song.
Just a little bit.
Okay.
So right now it's Signatures by Angel Catering LLC. We also have Signatures Mobile Cuisine, which is our food truck. Private services that we do for people. Then we have the organization, the Give Back Delaware, which we're hoping to turn into a 501c3, so that my ultimate goal is, I never went to school. I didn't go to culinary school. Everything that I am doing and have done is all just been by trial and error. Just, that grind, that hustle, just doing whatever I have to, learning, reading whole entire cookbooks and professional this and professional that, just so that I can continue to build this business. And me coming from coming from an urban background where, you know, I lived in public housing growing up and things like that, even though I didn't get to go to school, my goal is to go into inner cities like Wilmington, where I currently live now in Delaware, and work with students who go to Votech schools. Like there's a school here called Howard, and they have like a culinary program. And we all know that sometimes going to school can be extremely expensive. So I'm hoping to be able to create a scholarship program to be able to give those inner city children who really, really want to be in the culinary field the opportunity to either go to school or to travel abroad, of course, once the pandemic lets up, to be able to travel abroad because it was something that I wasn't able to do. So that's my ultimate goal. That's pretty much the foundation of who I am. And
nice, very nice.
Yes.
Well, I am a Delaware State University Hornet, so shout out to my Dell State fans.
Shout out Dell State.
Main man, Senator Darius Brown from Delaware, if you're listening, and also to our new president, Joe Biden, and Vice President Kamala Harris, who's also from Delaware as well. So thank you.
And
so listen,
Lisa Rochester.
Yes.
That's my girl. I got to do her birthday party last year. She's so amazing.
Definitely. So let's go ahead and get into it. And so before we get into these questions that we have for the panelists, what we want to do is just show a short clip of what we think kind of embodies the epitome of branding and hustling from our man that sells the Oye juices out in New York. So go ahead, let's get into it.
One thing my father told me, you have to go for it. You have to ask. Because only one or two things are going to happen. You're going to get a yes, or you're going to get a no. My name is Msession Faluke. Professionally, I'm a first assistant director on production sets. I'm an ex-professional basketball player. I also coach kids. And on the side, I make these drinks called Oyes. Oyes through the summer. I'm lethal weapon, Danny Glover. Yo, I'm the guy with the drinks. I'm the guy with the Oyes. Everybody in New York City calls them nutcrackers. Nutcrackers in New York is a summertime staple. You can find nutcrackers on the beach, festivals, in the street. It's really just a concoction of different liquors with a nice sweet juice taste.
We got blueberries, we got all the flavors.
People, I just made a good product, and that's all I needed to do. Now, with COVID, I have to make a good product, and I have to have a good relationship with my customers. I do everything for 60. Boom, bow.
Perfect.
Gotta give the love. I always show the love. What up, baby?
What's up, man?
Everything good?
How are you, bro?
Good to see you again, man.
Yeah.
Yes. I was on my way. I'll be here every weekend.
He's good people, man. He comes, he says what up. He's a good vibe.
I see success in me now, but I don't see the success that I want. I'm not at the goal yet. But I am successful. 2020, in my head, was my last year selling drinks on the street. It just happened that COVID came around. Next year, you're gonna be catching me in the stores, you're gonna be catching me at the airports, you're gonna be catching me at the bars. Anywhere you go, you're gonna be.
I love it.
Yeah.
I felt every bit of that.
Yeah. When we picked out that clip, I remember watching it because one of my friends is a Vice, correspondent. And I watch Vice a lot, and I saw that, and I said, this is a real brand, because I don't even know if this brother has a business plan yet, but he definitely got a brand. He definitely is known, right? And being, lived in New York before I came out to Qatar, I heard about this guy, didn't really know much about him, and just knew he was a basketball player and, teacher. But look at him, look at him with $20,000 a month he's making. Now, I don't know if I would have said that on TV, the IRS is watching, you know what I mean? But if he has a real business, it doesn't matter, so who knows? But I just like that clip.
If he's making a certain amount, then
yeah. And another thing too, I think, is just that, he said he had all these hustles, right? So if one fell off, he still had the business, right? And just imagine, a lot of it is summertime because it's hot, people want a nice refreshing drink, things like that. So, but $20,000 a month, what can that do for someone's life? And you could do it on the side, and he doesn't have to do this full time. That's something that, I thought about this clip, and I think that's something to think about. But Dunk, do you have anything to say before I get into the first question off that clip?
I mean, I just think, the guy's making a $20K a month from selling juices out of his home. Where do I sign up?
Yeah, right. Get your DoorDash on with them. You know what I mean?
Right. Oh yeah.
So let's get into the questions, right? Because we had, a lot of people on the panel. And so I really want to get into the first question. It's really about describing your early journey, when you first started with your brand. Like, what were the challenges? What are the threats, that you faced? Was it family? Was it the market? Was it your money? Tell me about that. So I guess I will start off with Jen, and then everyone else can go around and talk about their early journey or struggle of establishing a brand.
Listen, I think your brand evolves, and all of the challenges that you're talking about start on day one, right? Like everything you want to do, you kind of have to like pull up on the bootstraps and do it yourself. So if you want to talk specifically about my consultancy that I started, talk about starting in June of 2020, right? Like no natural networking opportunities. That's where deals get done, right? Like no real opportunities to kind of be creating new relationships. So how do you really do that? That circles back to day one, right? Like all of the relationships that you've created. I worked with you like over 10 years ago, right? And we're here today, like just working on maintaining, those relationships, updating people, being interested in what they're doing and telling them what you're up to, and just making sure that you plot the path that makes sense for you, and making sure that you have great relationship capital. So you're not always asking people for favors, you're giving them and giving back. If you have that good credit, like within your network, then I personally believe anything is possible. I think every reputational opportunity is exactly that. I think you need to be able to communicate exactly what you want to do. And I think sometimes the biggest obstacle is yourself, not believing that you can do it, not thinking that you have the resources, really not asking for help. I think when I talk to young people that I mentor, they don't feel comfortable asking for help, whether it's financial, whether it's guidance, advice. And I really wish that people would kind of tap into that. And honestly, my consultancy was born for me because I did everything that I'm talking about. So I was able to have an amazing job at Weber Shandwick, which is the #1 PR firm on the planet, and I got a call from someone that I had worked with like 5 years ago who happened to be the new CEO of the Black Caucus Foundation in June. So talk about timely. And, agencies were getting a hit. My biggest clients were General Motors and American Airlines. We all know what happened there. So I was asked to take a pay cut. I was kind of trying to figure out what is the next step that I do, take. And she called me and said, hey, like, I know all about you. I know that you produce content. I want to get this deal done with BET. I know that you understand marketing and comms, like through your M2W experiential experience, through your PR experience at Weber Shandwick. I know you understand diversity and inclusion. I've been a big public speaker on created integrated teams. I know how to work with teams, and I want you to work with me. And here is an amazing financial offer. And here is an offer to work with me to do some really meaningful work. That didn't happen overnight. That didn't happen in 2020. That took, my entire career of building my brand and working on my relationships. So lots of challenges, but I think all challenges can be navigated as long as you're an ethical person that works hard and manage your brand and your reputation in that same way.
Definitely. Who's next?
Just jump right on in.
Jump in.
I'll jump in off because I was actually taking notes while you were talking. And the reason for that is because I was one of those people that didn't want to ask for help. And honestly, the reason it's two reasons. And I'm not going to get deep on here. I promise you I'm not. But usually, like I said earlier, I'm a person who came from, little means, right? So usually people don't ask for help because they're so used to being rejected. And I've had a great deal and share of rejection growing up in my life. So I always had the mentality of keep your head down, hustle hard, stay low, but aim high. That was always my thing. And when I did muster up that energy to say, you know what, I'm going to put myself out there and ask. And it was always like, I got shot down. So I got to the point where it was like, I'm not asking. I'm going to find the door and I'm going to kick the door in. And whether you want me here or not, I'm here. And that's always been the strength of me. The resilience of me was, I'm not waiting. I got so tired of waiting for somebody to say, Angel, you can do this, that I just tuned out everybody else and said, I'm going to do it whether I can do it or not. So I totally understand where you're coming from with that. I also would say with branding, consistency is everything. Before I even had a business, I didn't even realize it, because like you said, 10 years ago, and then you're here. Well, me and Justin worked together 2005, and I used to feed him every day.
Definitely. Bachelor life.
Every day. He was a bachelor. I was, I would just cook. I would cook food, but I would bring, because I had extra. I grew up in a big household, so I didn't know how to cook small, even though at the time it was just me and my daughter. I wasn't married then. It was just me and my daughter then. So I would make all this extra food. So every day I'm coming to school and I'm like, here, just got some extra food. Here you go. He never had to buy lunch because I always fed him. Now here we are 16 years later.
Right.
And I'm on a panel with him for doing what I just love to do naturally. And building relationships with people, being consistent with people, showing people who you truly are in your passion and in your gift. That's a branding all in itself. If someone can come to you and say, hey, I need you to do this, you don't even know that in 10 years, that person may come back to you and say, I have this greater platform for you to be on. How do I know? I'm sitting on a panel with a bunch of CEOs, yet I'm just a little person in the middle. I was looking at the flyer. I see a CEO at underneath everybody's name. And then I see me as owner and chef, but I said, wow, like just who I am, just being who I am got me into a position where I never thought I would be. So branding really starts off with great relationships and consistency, always being who you say you are when it comes to the brand that you're portraying. You don't want to be, I don't want to tell people that I can make, German food, and then when they order it, I give them Latin food. That's just not gonna, it's not gonna work. That relationship is already like tainted because you didn't live up to your talk. So I'm the type of person that I try to build relationships with people. And then if it just so happens that I end up cooking for you, then everything else kind of flows in place.
Indeed. All right.
Yeah. Branding is something that is a representation of you. Sometimes people don't realize that you may run a company, and I don't, really get caught up in the titles as much as I respect the fact that you were just doing the work. You were on the ground doing the work. That's what is important about your brand, that you are always on. And I think one of the things that I'll talk about that was a pivotal time and period for me was back in the music industry days and that grind. My partner and I used to manage a lot of groups. We promoted shows. We would bring bigger name artists to a venue in the Newark area, and that was to get our groups shine alongside of those, larger artists. And one particular thing that I feel as though transpired in 2002 that I don't think I've been asleep since then, we actually gave a show, and that show was 50 Cent in the G Unit in Newark. People were afraid to book them, and we booked them because they were the hottest thing, period, in the music industry. All off of mixtapes.
I think I was at that.
And doing that promotion, and I mean, we wrapped the vehicles. Everything that we did was a reflection of this event. And it, to today, still has opened doors for us because we pulled that off a week after, God bless him, he just had a birthday, Jam Master Jay passed away. And the event was almost shut down. And, after pulling that off, we promoted so hard in New York City. And everything that we did wasn't just limited to just that one thing, that one event. We did a lot of guerrilla marketing. And through that guerrilla marketing, people begin to ask, what is this specific thing that they saw these stickers everywhere, or this specific group? And in seeing that, we would travel, you know, in the music industry from LA to the South and everywhere, every toll booth. I mean, you go to CBS right now, I'm probably telling on myself, I don't care, but you go to CBS right now, you will see one of those stickers still there. A lot of
if the police are listening, he's speaking hypothetically.
Yeah, the fans watching.
It wasn't actually him.
I don't know. I think he's just bloviating. I don't think it's still.
Yeah, the point that I'm making is that we understood from watching the marketing that they did for Big Pun, the marketing that Bad Boy did, and it was a lot of street guerrilla marketing where you didn't even hear songs and you knew what that brand meant and that logo and that image. You would be like familiar with something without even realizing that it's something that you've seen constantly. And I started our conversation like behind the scenes about, I am my own brand. We are our own brand as human beings. And I think it's important for us to realize that we have to lead by example. People buy into companies, but they often buy into people that may work for the company. The trust factor of your work ethic, being able to deliver and execute and go beyond just fluff and talking. I'm here because Justin and Duncan and I have worked together in juvenile justice, helping young people in every facet of reintegrating back into the community. And I don't even remember how long ago it was when we met, but it was a long time ago. And this is the ability to stay connected, and your network has a lot to do with how you represent yourself and how you represent companies, your work ethic. And I just feel that it's important for you to realize whether you're certified and formatted, or your business is formatted or not, or you're already officially on. You are on the moment that you say that you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to be in business. You are on the moment that you go to school. I mean, from childhood, all of the things that we do is always, our parents said, don't embarrass me. Don't do it. And all of those things factor into us as adults being able to sell and pitch.
I said it to myself.
You got to be very, very clear on and consistent on what you do on social media. You can't be real cool over here talking all this positive stuff, and then you giving it up on social media and doing all this foolishness. All of that, people are watching. People are always watching. Be clear on that. So I just think it's so important that the things that you all have said about being consistent and your work ethic, and if you understand what you're doing, and don't ever dumb yourself down or make yourself believe that you're not worthy of the work that you're doing, maybe for another brand and everything else, but it's even more important for you to put that energy times 20 in yourself.
Yeah.
But
That's so funny.
Yeah, I like that. Everybody's saying, stuff that's in my head too. So, kind of piggybacking what Jeff was just talking about, you are the brand. And I think that many people who enter into entrepreneurship, they attempt to create the product before they create the brand. They assume that the product itself is so great that it will sell. But branding is all about relationship. And I remember my days as a club promoter. I mean, at 18, 19 years old, right before Jay Tyler, I came to, West Virginia University. I was coming back home to DC in the summer, when Mark Barnes owned Love Nightclub, Nightclub, biggest club in DC, all the homecomings, HU homecomings, and everybody that was a big name in the music industry. Jennifer, this, when they was in DC, they was going to Love Nightclub. And so I got my start promoting, putting out flyers, right? So putting out flyers on cars. And so it wasn't until I realized I wasn't getting paid. People weren't remembering me because all I was doing was putting flyers on cars. It wasn't until I was going into nail salons, barbershops, and hair salons, look, I'm Jason and I'm a promoter at this club and I want you to come and I want you to be at the table. I want to give you a special invite. When I started creating those relationships with people, people started connecting with me as the brand.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So I no longer was throwing flyers on cars arbitrarily. I was intentional where I put those flyers. And I was intentional about going back to the relationships that I created and say, hey, this week Drake's coming in town. Hey, this week, Jay-Z coming in town. Beyonce will be in town. Y'all want to be there. And so that's where I got my start about branding. And so now as I've transitioned into a nonprofit organization, similar to that grassroots approach, also is all about relationship building. Every grant that we get, every donation that we receive, every opportunity that somebody wants to partner with our organization is not because of some great logo, not because our website's the bomb, but because we've developed relationship. So those who are listening and thinking about starting a business, or you're wondering why your business is suffering, it could be your brand. And how deep are your relationships?
That's good. That's good.
And so let me. I do have a question, I guess, really for the panelists. So now that actually we're talking about branding, so oftentimes I see, I guess, really, at the point that we are in society, where people think that in order to build their brand, get more likes, or become an influencer or so forth, that they have to do something that has shock value. They got to get into a fight. They got to throw water on somebody. They have to do something that's going to make people look at them. Now, is that how we have to build our brand moving forward, or is that not, a sound model to use?
No, absolutely not. Because you're going to attract what it is you put out. So if that's the type of energy that you're going to put out, that's the type of clients you're going to get. And I don't want it.
And I'll say this: I know people that have become very successful on social media, and by doing exactly those things. I don't knock anyone's hustle. I just know what I will or won't do. But I do respect that the ones that may have started that way, that have transitioned and parlayed that attention into monetizing and not just being likes and things of that nature. And I've watched people start out with somebody smacking a burger out their hand and going viral, and then they have now established themselves as entrepreneurs, and they have products, and they've taken that initial, brand and taken it somewhere else. And I'll just close with this: as far as comedy in social media like Instagram, I work with somebody who I'm doing a doc for. His name Bob Sumner, one of the architects of comedy, urban and black comedy. Long or the short, he taught me something that, he said, I do comedy and this is what I do in this pocket. And then you have what we call social medias. People that do comedy that can't even stand on the stage and do 15 minutes, but he doesn't knock them for what they do based on his background. This guy helped create Def Comedy Jam. So he respects what people do in regards to some of those shock value things, but that's not what he does. So I don't think that that's the route that I would go, but I wouldn't knock anybody for if that's their hustle. If they know how to parlay that into something better, I kind of have to respect that.
Yeah, and I appreciate everything that Jeff and Angel, I agree with everything you're saying, but since we're talking about brand, I think it's important to note that some of those one-off situations that kind of go viral and make you an influencer, there's literally a word for that. It's a trend, a fad. Going viral never has a long-term definition, right? It's a one-off thing. And yes, if you can translate that and bring it back to you, I think the word that we're kind of talking about is authenticity. I mean, just hearing all of your stories, if your brand is not authentic to who you are, then it's not a brand, it's a fad, right? It's something that goes away. I do think that brands can evolve. People grow, you can go from music and promotion to education, you know what I mean? I get that, Dr. Jason, I see that. I went from owning a rap label to being the most corporate. I laugh. I executive produce battle raps, and now I executive produce President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, So, it's different, but it's authentic to yourself. And I think young people nowadays kind of reach because they don't have that self-confidence in their own authenticity. So they're like, hey, I see this kind of works. Let me try that. But that's not a brand, and that's not a long-term solution. So
I agree.
Grace, what do you think?
So
about this. Yeah.
I'm just really enjoying hearing everybody's story. I guess for me, I am just naturally curious about people, and so communication comes easy for me. And I live by the creed: if you don't ask for it, you're not going to get it. And so I coach a lot of the CEOs and executive directors that I work with to continually be thinking about their partners and the people in the community that they can sort of co-brand with, and ask for what you need. I mean, Angel, what you said, like, you didn't grow up in a scenario where asking was something that felt comfortable for you, so you had to figure out a way to bring that into your persona and your dialogue. And I think that's something that we're not doing a really good job of in our educational systems. We're not really teaching our kids to ask for when they need things, and we're definitely not bolstering their communication skills. I I was a professor a couple of years ago, and I had to grade papers, and I was just horrified at what I was reading because the skill level was just so different from when I was in school. And now that my daughter is 16, and I see, they're about to take the essay question off of the SAT test, and like that's definitely a controversial situation, but I'm wondering what that means for our communication. So for me, branding is about communication, curiosity, consistency. That's all been said before. And also, response time. I think that the reason why my business is so successful is because every client that I work with, I want them to feel like they're the most important client. And when I'm talking with them, nothing else is distracting me from trying to get them what they need. And so sometimes that means I have long days, because I have to return phone calls or return email messages to make sure that response time is, credible. But the work that I'm doing for, it's important work. And if we win a grant, we win $500,000, that means that a community doesn't have to worry about food insecurity for 6 months. And like, that's really important. So like all of that to me is connected. And I think that for me, as I mature, I've been consulting for now 11 years. And as I mature in what I'm doing and the community work that I'm doing, I want to be connected with organizations that have missions and visions that are similar to mine. In the beginning, like I took whatever came, like anybody that wanted to work with me. But then I realized, I can't sell someone's services if they're not the best in that community. You know what I mean? Like, so going back to authenticity, I actually said goodbye to a client last year, very great contract that I had, because when I went and visited their facility, what they said they were doing and what they were actually doing were two different things. And I said, I'm done. I can't sell this because it's not true and it's not authentic. And so I can help you fix this problem that you have, but I can't write grants or talk to corporate, CEOs to try to get your programs funded because you're not doing what you're saying that you're doing. And so I think that those kinds of levels of credibility and those kinds of levels of ethics are what is the package for me. And then I get referred to other people, and I don't do any advertisement. Duncan will tell you, like, I don't spend any money on advertising at all. All of my clients are word of mouth. And that there's enough work to do in the nonprofit arena where I probably don't ever have to take an ad out anywhere, because we need writers, we need storytellers. I mean, we've got the stories. We just need people who are, have the craft and the technical skills to tell those stories. So I don't know if that answered anybody's question. I mean, Duncan, when you say shock value, the best shock value that I can offer on social media is when I win a $500,000 grant. Like, that's what I want to shock people with. You know, like when we get a grant win, I want everyone to know about it. And that, I think we need to take casual cruelty out of our existence for a while, because I think we've had a lot of it over the past couple of years, and we need to go back to kindness and unity and supporting each other. You know, the world's hard enough as it is. We don't need to have casual cruelty.
And just, if I can just piggyback really fast off of one thing that Grace just said that I think was so powerful, is she said she doesn't promote herself. Everything is through word of mouth. That is your brand right there. If you are constantly striving and, you know, leveling up because somebody keeps referring you and referring you and referring you, that shows how great your branding is. And it's not about what they see, it's about what other people know about you and can honestly say, this person is going to get the job done. This is who you need. This is the person that you want for this specific job, without them ever seeing a logo on a shirt, or, you know, or seeing anything that has to do with your face or anything like that. They're willing to trust someone else's word based on what you consistently showed them and the service that you provided. That's the best branding of all.
Totally agree.
Agreed. I have a question that I think is going to challenge everyone. And before I do that, though, I do want to point out Mo Siddiqui's comment, because I think really Grace answered a lot of that in her response. But it was really, you know, interesting. Duncan, if you could put that up one more time. Yeah, so just let people see. I think, you know, Grace answered a good deal of it. But let's really go to this question here, everyone. I get this a lot when people ask me this question too, about how to build a business and things like that. Is there a difference between a brand and a business? Why or why not? That is the question.
Because my brand is not paying my bills. I can just be Angel, and I can just, you know, you can see my, now, even though you don't see it right now, but you can see this right here, which is this is my logo. You can see my purple hair, which I don't have any on today, but you can see that people automatically know exactly who I am. But that doesn't, that's just the first step. Like that, just seeing my truck go by or seeing me at somebody's function cooking the food, you who are a person who's just looking at me, just you knowing who I am isn't going to pay my bills. I'm just a known factor. You know what I mean? Until the contract gets signed, I'm just a, you know what I mean? I'm just a brand until the contract gets signed.
Yeah, I agree. Your brand is a representation of who you are, right? And so, and I'm gonna keep this short. If it's a representation of who you are, your business is the system that you have in place, right? And so, the system is what angels say is what gets you paid. You're not getting paid on the representation. You're getting paid on the system that you've put in place. And great businesses do well and prosper financially because there's a system that is in place, and checks and balances are in place, and accountability is in place. So yeah, they're not the same thing.
They're not. I agree with both of you, but I do think they're connected. I think the word that kind of connects the two is perspective. I look at brand as very an inward look, like it's you, it's authentic to who you are, right? Like you're looking at what you do well and you're trying to understand what that is, right? When you're looking at the business part of it, yes, there's the whole financial operationalization of everything, but it's very much an external perspective, which Grace, you talked about the SAT essay. I have lots of thoughts on that, but I think nowadays when people talk about, the business and how it connects to a brand, they still look at it as what works for me. And that's the first step to failure. Like I think business, you really have to kind of take a step and look at your audience. Like, what is your value proposition that you're bringing with your business? Like, why? Like, break it down to as simple as why. Like, why do they want to pay you for this, right? Like, and that can't come from your perspective. I deserve this much money, right? It has to be like for the consumer. And who is that exactly, right? Like break that down. Like what's their income level? Like what problem are you solving for them? Are they hungry? Do they need a new funding for their hustle, right? Like, I don't think people are really taking the time to look at it from the customer's perspective and being honest about what value you're bringing. But in order to kind of marry those two, again, like you have to be authentic to who you are and can you really deliver the best, right? Like Grace, you talked about that. Like, you know, can you really deliver the best to the point where that person is going to pay you at least market value, if not more, right? You want to be an awesome business, then the assumption is that you're solving all these problems and delivering value for all these people across all the different demographics and people and everything else. So I do think they're connected, but you know, I think nowadays young people look at a business from a very selfish kind of perspective, like an internal perspective, and I think that's very dangerous.
Yeah, I think just to make a comment about it, I started working in what would be considered a nonprofit sector, working for Rutgers, real grant funded community-based work back in the 90s. And what I learned was that as I became an administrator and all these things, people started to see me as a brand and a thought leader in that world. But when people say nonprofit, they don't see that as a business. A nonprofit is a business. And I've learned the importance of how do I pivot people thinking that everything I do is a service versus something that is a fee-based. And because I have a heart that I know that I work with young people for the rest of my life, how do you get people to understand that it's not just that I'm doing this out the kindness of my heart? In order for me to do it on a bigger scale, I have to have a business model in place to do that. And one of the things that we created the No Business Hub was around people thinking that the arts are just like a thing, a hobby. No, it's a business. No. And we created these systems for people of color to be unapologetic about creating generational wealth. It's business. The question becomes, one of my business partner, Lanier Richardson, often says, be unapologetic about generating money. And in order to do the social entrepreneurship things, you have to have some capital and some capacity to deliver them and to optimize and to really have impact. So I think that that's one of the things that question reminds me of in regards to branding and what's the difference from a business and a brand. A brand is a representation of yourself or whatever product or service you may be offering to consumers, and then the business is exactly what Jason said. It's the systems, it's the back office ability to generate revenue and build and meet the bottom line.
Jeff, when you said Rutgers, I knew you knew Lanier, man. Lanier is a great friend by way of Chicago, now at Rutgers. You know, he's actually going to be one of our speakers at the Equity Summit coming up in a couple of weeks, man. Phenomenal guy, man. This brother, he's all about the community, and he's all about building entrepreneurs. People build businesses. This brother builds entrepreneurs.
And that's important too, that I didn't mention, the importance of surrounding yourself with like-minded people. Somebody else said it, but you can't be the smartest person in the room.
I don't want to.
Right. That's right.
Can't grow.
That's right. So Jay Tyler, before you get into your question,
I'm about to go in,
right? And I know you have a quote probably from one of the top 5 rappers alive. But I have a question from one of the greatest rappers alive right now during this time. So because I want to get some real clarity on this, right? So I want to talk about Jay-Z. Right. So Jay-Z has a rap line when he says, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. So let me handle my business. Right. And so when you think about Jay-Z, he's saying that, he is the business. So but he's also his own brand. Right. So how do you does he have to separate those two, or are those two things married together? Right. So when we're talking about being the brand in the business, for him, is that married or are those two separate entities? When it comes to, let's just say, Jay-Z, for example.
Yeah, I think it's married together, but you have to have the balance to separate the two. Because you still have to have a personal life. You still have to, and when you're a celebrity, that's a whole different type of magnifying glasses on you. And I think that Jennifer, you spoke to that about how they're connected. They are both connected. Like you can't get away from one being the other. You could be in a social environment, and that's where a lot of business opportunities are born. So you're always on, and you are a walking, you become a business, but you have to have a balance. You have to know that you still have to separate it from the degree of, because you will burn out, is what I'm saying. A lot of what people see of me, they may think it's all, I'm just winning. They don't know the struggle, the back door, because I don't want to put all that negative energy in the world. So it's a lot that goes on that you have to have some balance. And the people you surround yourself with and being able to separate that kind of fosters how well you do in business. And I think, again, it's both. It's like you cannot get away from one without having the other. You could be on vacation and somebody may say something to you. It's happened to me in regards to a business opportunity. But you have to have an ability to balance it.
I like that. That's good.
All right. Another question, but we're going to go into the comment section, right, with our audience. And so Latarsha Williams-Burke, she had a nice question. She said, how do you make the transition from a service to a fee in the arts? I know we have some arts-oriented people on this panel. Really appropriate. What do we do?
Well, gosh, I feel like
arts in action. That's you.
Looking at Grace here.
tell her to call me. I'll just quickly tell the story of how the Cultural Arts Center that I founded became successful, and that is that we had a fee-for-service model from the very beginning. I knew of a population that had a funding source behind them. They just needed opportunities for skill building in the community, and there weren't very many. And so we created a whole different model of serving people with developmental disabilities, but had the licensing to serve that population before we started and opened the center. So for every person that we served that had a disability, we received a daily rate for them. And that it wasn't enough to cover all of our expenses, but it was enough to keep cash flow going. And so when I work with the nonprofit organizations that are my clients, one of the first things we look at are, is there a fee for service model? Is there a population that already has a funding source behind them, but you can provide that for them? Is there a partnership in the community? Like, I very rarely tell people to start nonprofit organizations because they have an idea. I say, look in your community. Is there an organization that's already serving that population, or that is already doing something, and you could bring something more to the table, and then start a partnership with them, see how that goes, and then if the idea blossoms. But there are populations that have funding sources behind them. You just have to become credentialed to serve those populations. Or, maybe there's some kind of a social entrepreneurial aspect, that the intellectual property of the way that you're serving the population can be sold to another organization. I mean, there's a lot of different ways. And every single client is different. And so that's part of what I do, is just like really investigate, like, where are the opportunities to bring in steady income for the organization. And it doesn't have to cover all the expenses, but it should be enough so that you can write grants and do some donor relationship building and get income from different other opportunities, so that you have like this diverse portfolio of income and revenue that can support the work that you want to do.
Nice.
Yeah, just one thing I'll say about that: if an artist isn't sure about how to go about coming up with a fee for services or a price point, first of all, it's important to know your worth. But I would do the research. You have access to looking through every online portal possible to look at what people pay for certain things, but also talk to people, talk to other artists that may be established. It goes back to surrounding yourself with people that are generating revenue through the arts, and beginning to have conversations with them about things of that nature. And it's a lot of research involved with being able to come up with your price points and how you charge people for things, but it's definitely important for you to be able to separate. I tell people you're either in business in the arts or it's a hobby.
Yeah.
It's not just the art. That's not just the art. That's period. that's all across the board.
So, all right. So these are great answers too, and I thank you for Latarsha for that comment and that question. So now the Duncan preface that I have another hip hop artist that I want to use his line in relation to a question. This is one of my
not as great as
favorites.
Jay-Z though.
Nah, come on now. You're speaking nonsense here. Frivolous, right? So
I think they having a battle, Jennifer.
We are. We're gonna let Jennifer decide because she's a Smack DVD representative, hip hop constructor. You know what I mean? So the iconic poet Nasir Jones, right? In his song "The Message," he said something that I thought about when I started my own separate business and before me and Duncan got into business together. He said, "But a thug changes, and love changes, and best friends become strangers." So when you were starting your brand and your business, did you ever feel a lack of support from your friends? You were like, wow, how come my friend didn't support that? I thought they were my boys. That's my girl right there. Did you feel that lack of support from family as well?
I'm still
Why
there.
or why not? Yeah.
I'm still in that position.
Talk about it. Talk about it.
So I have family who still doesn't, it's not that they can't, they just don't. And I have got to the place where I don't look at who doesn't support me. I cater my mental energy to those who do. I think it was one of those things where I had people who believed in me until they got to the place where they was like, oh, she's really going to do this.
Yeah.
This is actually going to happen for her because she's really pushing. Like she's really going for it and she's not stopping and she's willing to sacrifice every pair of shoes that she could have bought for 3 years straight. And, everything that I would have done with my savings since leaving. I mean, when I tell you, I woke up on November 30th, 2017 and looked at my husband and I said, this is my last day teaching. I'm going for it. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, I'm going to take this $167 that I have in my bank account, and I'm going to take my little business license that I got in July, and I'm going for it. And I'm going to put all 1,000% of what I have into having my own business. And he asked me if I was sure, and I said yes. And he's been behind me ever since. And people who have seen me was like, oh, I can't wait for you to do this. And then I did it. And it's like, I don't even know where you are anymore. And it's not because I did anything wrong. I exceeded your expectation of me.
Facts.
And that's okay. I'm not, I don't even worry about who doesn't support now. I'm just like, thank you if you do, thank you if you don't. I'm going to keep going. That's just where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in real quick because I gotta roll soon. But Jay Tyler Nas is one of my favorite rappers, man. So when you
already know,
when you spit that verse, I was like, oh yeah, we used to score together, Uptown, Cop in the Raw. And so I'm thinking, yeah,
right.
As family, we used to score together, right? Because those are your ride or dies. Those are the ones that have been in it, since the beginning. And so the reason it's so tough for you to think about should family and friends be involved in my business venture is because you've trusted them with your idea. You trusted them with your mixtape. You trusted them with your brand logo. You trusted them with your ideas about, fears of getting started. And so when you get into it with family, sometimes they disappoint you. And the reason they disappoint you is not because they don't love you, but because they don't have the capacity necessarily to see where your vision is taking you. Right. So my family, my friends that were super close to me, I was hurt because they weren't on the journey with me the entire time. But I recognized over the years, they just didn't have the capacity to see my vision. And that was cool. So rather than try to put the pressure on them to be there every step of the way, I was cool with just coming back, grabbing the fifth and just sitting on the stoop like, look, let me just tell you how life has been. And we still family, we still cool. And so I think that, those who are getting into their entrepreneurship business, as much as you want to take family and friends with you, you have to really think about, do they have the skill set to really be and go where you're going?
Right.
Before you hop in, Jeff, just to piggyback off of that, once again, one of my favorite Jay-Z lines is, my uncle said that I would never sell 1 million records, but I sold 1 million records about 1 million times. So it wasn't about, once again, his uncle not loving him or not believing. He just couldn't do it. So he put his manifestations on Jay-Z, but having that mindset, just while we're talking about Jay-Z Nas right now. But I'm sorry, Brother Billingsley.
No, I just was going
please go ahead.
Both of them answered that question extremely well. I agree with the points that they made. And it's a lot of sacrifice that comes with being in business. And there's a lot of lonely nights and days. But you have to have that tough skin to just press on. Use that to motivate yourself.
Yes.
I love when people count me out and think I'm an underdog. I love that. I actually gravitate to it because I know what I'm able to do. I've accomplished so many things, and that's an internal thing. It's not external. Relying on other people. And you have to, the thing you said about people don't see your vision and they're not along the ride with you. Some people come and they're there seasonally and everything else, but that is real important for you to internalize what your worth is and how you're going to go forward with whatever you want to do, regardless of who's with you or not.
Right.
And just to throw this in there really quick, and I don't know who this is for, but I'm hoping that it encourages somebody today. You are not in competition with anybody but you. You're yesterday's you. That's it. I often say, I teach my son some of the things that I'm doing because he shows a lot of interest. He's 11 years old. And he shows a lot of interest in cooking because he's always, I'm always in the kitchen. So I tell him all the time, you are only as good as your last plate. So the reason why I say that is that's something that I tell myself. I have to continuously keep evolving. And it's not because I'm trying to be in competition with anyone. I'm just trying to be better than I was the day before. So my only competition is me. And that's the only thing that stops people from pushing as much as they possibly could, because they stop themselves listening to others instead of constantly trying to re-evolve and push themselves to be the person better than the person they were the day before.
So great point. So I want to jump in really quick. I have a short story about this whole topic as well. Duncan and I, we recently had a conversation, and we had a mailing list that we send out to our subscribers. And he said, "Hey man, do you know that so-and-so unsubscribed from our mailing list? This is one of my boys that went and was in my wedding, right? This is one of my boys that, I'd do anything for." And I was sitting there I was upset, Duncan's more chill than I am. So he was like, "Man, don't worry about it." I was like, "No, that says so. It's the principle, And but at the end of the day, right? It's the principle of the thing, I was like, I'm gonna say something to him, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter, because they'll come back around and try to give you the roses, and it's too late. But it still could be my boy, though. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be everything just falls out in general. So, and that hurt. But at the end of the day, it's not applicable to him right now. Maybe in 6 months it would be, right? The second thing is, before brother Jason Otley, Dr. Otley, has to go, we want to be able to give him a chance to showcase his brand, his website, before he jumps off the call, and then we'll get into a question from the comments section. But so, brother Otley, let us know your website, your brand, everything else.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Hey, the bond.org is the website, for the Bond Educational Group. We have an amazing program coming up in 2 weeks, February 2nd through 4th. It's a virtual conference. It's called the Equity Summit, the first of its kind. I've not seen anyone develop this before. We've got thought leaders from across the nation talking about how to make 3 areas specifically more equitable: our education system, our policy, and then sports, right? And so we've got athletes, former college, some NBA, some WNBA players that are going to be speaking. We've got superintendents from public school systems. We've got charter school members. We've got policy makers, senators, governors, mayors. Just go to the website, thebond.org. You'll get a chance to see the Equity Summit, February 2nd through 4th. You don't want to miss it. It's just a great way for us to have conversation now that we're moving into a new Oval Office, the changing of the guards, an opportunity for us to actually really do some real work around diversity, equity, and inclusion without all these crazy memorandums that are going out scaring people, right? Now we can actually do some real work. And so check us out, thebond.org. The Equity Summit, February 2nd. forth.
Love it.
Yep, there it is, right there. So everybody run over there, check it out. Don't run over there right now. We still got a show.
Yeah,
but after the show, run over there.
I'm already on there. I was
Right, hold on there.
Y'all,
right,
y'all
so
getting nuggets. If y'all still listening, stay tuned in. I just appreciate Jay Tyler, Duncan, man. It's been a blessing just to be on here with y'all. Jennifer, Jeff, Angel, Grace. It's just wonderful to just to share the stage.
No doubt, and I'm gonna find you, brother. I got people in Chicago.
and Jason, you got 2 alpha men here as well. I don't know if you know that.
Well, I picked up on. I picked up on
one.
I didn't know we had 2.
We connected already. You didn't know that.
Okay. Oh, okay. No disrespect.
Yes, sir.
I'm late to the party. So I do have a question that I want to go from the comment section, right? So I think it was Miss Tamara Lee. And so she asked a really good question, and this is important for a growing business. So how do you build your social media presence without an assistant? Are there services out there, right? You can't do it all. So how do you do it? Does anyone have experience on that we can talk about?
Tell my mind I can't do it.
So there's social media management systems out there, and you know, some Hootsuite is one of them. I've used that one a lot, and you know, you can post one thing and then it goes to all of your channels, and you can set times and schedule. That's the best way, I think, that you, in the most affordable way to do it if you don't have the funding to pay someone. But my firm does social media and communications for nonprofit organizations. And, you know, we charge a fee, but it's less than, you know, some of the other things that we provide, because it's a skill set that, you know, it's, you know, you can get an intern, or you can hire college grads, like early college grads, to do social media management. They don't have to be, you know, seasoned professionals per se. Like, you just have to like teach them like what the interest of the organization is, and then they can help come up with the content. But if it's like an entrepreneurial brand that isn't related to the nonprofit and it has to do with retail, I think it's important to try and figure out how to get someone who knows what they're doing in as soon as possible, because with retail brands and with anything that has to, I mean, Jeff and Jennifer would probably, and even Angel would know way better than me. But for nonprofit, that's really just about, you know, extending the mission, making sure, you know, that the images are in accordance with the image that you want out there in the community. And Canva is such a great resource. It's worth the $100 fee. And if you're a nonprofit, you can get it for free. And you can get royalty-free images for days and days and days, and create original content all the time. And, you know, you either find someone who likes to do that, a board member, or, you know, or you figure out how to do it yourself until you can afford someone. But I was just talking about this the other day with a client. One of the things that we did at Creative Clay that saved so much money back in the day was we partnered with a university, and we had interns in all the time, and we assigned them to different, you know, tasks that they were interested in. And that was a way for us to get, you know, basically free help. They got a grade for, you know, participating with the organization, and they got mentorship from people who were in the nonprofit world. They got to see if that's where they wanted to go after graduation. We got free labor, and in exchange, it was a beautiful symbiotic relationship. And I think that you can do that in the for-profit side too. And that's a way that you could sort of kiss a couple of frogs and see if anybody turns into a prince. And then maybe that becomes your assistant in the future. And you don't have to spend a lot of time training them, because you've already put them through your internship program. But, you know, the retail side, I think probably Jennifer, Angel, and Jeff would know way better, like, how to handle that.
Yeah,
and Jennifer, before you answer, because I want to add on to that question, so maybe you can answer this too. So not only, you know, how do you manage your social media, but how do you pick which one that best fits with your brand? Because you have Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, now you have TikTok. just came out. As soon as TikTok hit, Clubhouse is now. So it's like, where do I go?
All of them.
Pinterest, right?
Right. Exactly.
Pinterest,
Reddit. Where do I go? Google, is stepping up in the ad marketing world. So, how do I, where do I put my brand? Right.
Yeah, Duncan, I think that's a great point. And Grace, I'm all about automation. I love, Hootsuite, but also Sprout Social. I think they have some great analytics that come with it. But, Duncan, to your point, I think people, stress a lot about social media when I think people really need to take a step back and understand what exactly is it doing to drive your brand. Like picking a platform is one thing, but if I'm an executive consultant and my, target demographic is, just for example, like a local or, whatever it is, just having a cool Instagram page is just honestly a waste of my time. Because posting is one thing, right? There's owned content, but then your engagement is even more critical. So if you put up all this stuff and you're not responding to people or your questions, then ultimately it's actually more negative for your brand than it is positive, right? So you have to be careful about that. If you're really looking for like a retail audience or you're a direct to consumer and you have a wide breadth or reach, then not only do you have to look at your own content, you have to look at paid, because how are you bringing in, people that you don't know or you're not connecting with? Like, how do you know your images are right, like your copy's correct? How are you targeting specific people to make money? Because otherwise, I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs get started and really kind of get bogged down with social media content, and they're either overposting or the content is cluttered or it doesn't tell the right story. So it all goes back to the conversation about brand, authenticity, understanding your audience, and how you're adding to their life instead of just creating new posts where they're going to unfollow you. So, right.
I just want to say something that is important to this entire conversation, and it has to do with being a lifelong learner and continuing education. There are so many ways to find out those answers that deal with social media. LinkedIn has all of these courses and LinkedIn Learning. You have to invest in yourself as much as you can, and that may just be time on task. In order to know what social media platform works, you have to do a deeper dive into understanding social media and understanding exactly what Jennifer said. Is it worth your time to be focusing on certain demographics within social media? And you could overpost, you could underpost, or your post, the quality of is so much you should, but all of that information exists between YouTube, LinkedIn, Google. A lot of this content is out here that kind of could give you some additional tidbits. And the fact that you're in this room and in this conversation is an example that you want to learn from other people and everything else, but it's a lot more. I'm going through a whole new, refreshed digital marketing training process right now. I've gone through it before. I want to be in the know of the latest language, SEO, everything that's going to help me be better in understanding systems around social media and digital marketing. It never stops. It never, as a human.
Very true. I mean, the algorithms change,
every day,
all the time.
Well, everybody has said pretty much everything. What I will say to Tamara Lee for that, if you are a person like me, I do everything myself. I run my website myself. I run my social media pages myself. But I also have a virtual assistant. She costs me $50 a week, maybe. And all she does is 4 days of maybe about an hour's worth of whatever it is I need her to do. Answer these few emails for me that I wasn't able to get to today. Make a few phone calls that I wasn't able to, anything that I was not able to do. 1 hour out of her day to just respond back and do some things that I just couldn't do for myself because I was so busy doing something else. And then I have one day that I set aside every single week that I strictly just what I like to call focus on the business of my business. So that whole day, I'm doing nothing but follow-up calls and emails and updating certain things on the website and contract, whatever it is I have to do that I wasn't, that's like the start of my week, trying to get it as much as I can get done in that one day. And then I pick off little days throughout the week to do certain things. And then virtual assistant will help you, especially find you a young one who sits on social media all day long. They don't have anything else to do any day. They're already doing it. So, find somebody who just doesn't mind doing a couple of things for you. They don't have to spend all day doing it. Then you don't have to spend a lot of money doing it either.
One thing I will say about social media that's evolved is social media has become a career path.
Yeah.
For people that do social media marketing, people that do data analytics, reporting, and all of those things, social media helps you drive other business if you use it properly. And that's a part of understanding it. But in regards to social media itself, I know it's become not just something that's a hobby or something I do to help. I have to hire people. I don't have time on task to do it all. The Hootsuite and everything is a part of it. And I think everything everybody is saying is a combination of those things. But social media has had me to bow down and respect that's a full-time, full-capacity operational piece of your business that you should begin to look at how you can nurture that. And it starts with you understanding. So I just wanted to say that in regards to that. Social media is and with all the content, that's
a whole monster.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. And I just want to say this. One of the biggest lessons that I learned when I was the CEO of the nonprofit was that I can't wear every hat. It's impossible. When you scale to the point where you're really affecting change in your community, you'll get to the point where you can't do everything. And so I had someone really smart sit me down and say, what is it that you love to do? What is it that it would be okay for someone else to do? And I said, payroll. I hate payroll. Someone else, please do payroll. And basically I gave myself permission to find somebody else to do that because I hated it so much. It would take me forever to do it. The second I took the plunge and paid a bookkeeping and accounting firm to do that part of the business, then that freed me up to write more grants and to bring in more income for the organization. And it ended up being like a way better, more efficient way of, supporting the organization than me trying to do something that I wasn't really, made by God to do. So I think, that's a hard lesson for entrepreneurs and leaders to figure out is what is it that you can step away from and give to somebody else to do? And what is it that you really love to do? And you're going to get up in the morning and you're going to be excited about doing that because you have to keep being excited about going to work every day or else you're not going to accomplish what you originally set up to do.
Yes.
So great information. I really think that was important for everyone to hear, for real. I really do. Now, here's the thing that's on the other side, right? We talked about all these positive things, right? So how do you know when your branding and marketing isn't working? It works great, right? How
when they unsubscribe from your email.
Yeah, holla at them, right? Holla at them on the phone, like, hey, why you do that? But no, how do you know it's not working? Is there any telltale signs, or is it subtle? Is it overt?
I will say this much. Part of what I was saying about the things you put into the universe, especially on social media, could come back and bite you. Employers, investors, everybody is watching social media. And the first thing I do as an administrator sometimes is Google a person.
Right.
I mean, that's the first thing we do. And what comes up sometimes could be a determining factor whether I even want to associate with you. Your energy, your presence, all of that factors in. But I haven't experienced, I've seen people tank and lose it on social media, and it costs them their job, it costs their career, their business suffered in regards to some of the things they may say. You have to keep your personal life, in some regard, or your personal beliefs outside of business when it's business involved. And it's a lot of different things that could be pitfalls to social media that if you're not careful, or you're not being authentic, as Jennifer mentioned. That is the most, that if you're not being true to yourself, you already then lost. You're losing. You have to be true to yourself. And in that, you have to be very mindful of what you put on social media and those things. But I've seen people crash and burn on social media because they're using it for the wrong reasons, or they vent a personal issue on a business page, or they come up with a comment or statement that everybody's looking like, what did he just say? And I can't mess with him because. So it's I've seen those as examples. As far as any campaigns that I've been a part of or spearheaded myself, I haven't been impacted in that way. I had to learn about targeted marketing on social media, and the ads part of it has taught me to be very mindful of what I want to accomplish on social media when it comes to advertising something.
Right. So I'm in a totally different lane than that because of my profession. Everything that you just said is totally correct, except in my profession, my transparency is what brings my business, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's because and Justin will tell y'all, I am the very same person I was 15 years ago. I'm very outspoken.
You gotten better.
Yes. Because he knows I have filtered down actually because I'm very forthright. I'm very, I'm going to say what I'm going to say, and I'm still like that even now. Like I express my emotions. I let people see me, where I think it's because you don't want someone cooking for you that you can't trust. So everything in my hands that I put my hands to when it comes to food, my heart is in it. But you'd only know that if you actually got to know me a little bit. So I am like an open book. I let people see who I am. The only thing I don't let people see often is my children. And it's only because people actually know who I am. So I don't want you bothering my kids. But you know that I'm married. You know how much I love my husband. Like my husband, he's in the music business as well. So he's a producer. He is a Grammy-winning songwriter. He's people know him. I'll have to represent him as well. People know me, and because of that, because I let them in through my social media. I don't know why. I don't know. I guess it's just God's grace. It actually got me more business being transparent.
Authentic. It's the same.
Right. And just allowing people to see me. When throughout my journey, I'm a person who believes in Christ. So I am a Christian woman. So that being said, I say things on my page about, my beliefs, and nobody has a problem with it. But then, I have other religions that people of other religions or religious backgrounds that I am just as cool with. I'll speak to them and I'll greet them in their they're in their background. I just don't. I have like I'm a neutral person all the time. So because of that, it has allowed me to build so many relationships with so many people on every level because I allow them to see all the parts of me. When things weren't going well in business, I've let people know. When things were on its high, I let people know. So they were able to travel this entire road of entrepreneurship and business owning. They were able to be with me every step of the way. Whenever someone would donate money to me towards my business, I would go out, buy whatever I needed to buy for the business, send them a picture and say, hey, what you just gave me as a gift, this is what you purchased for the business. So now you're a part of it. I always try to make people feel like we're in this together. Everything I am your walking billboard. I am if you don't have a business of your own, but you want to help out mine, I'm going to show you why you helped me out and how you played a huge part in it. So I try to bring my clients and my customers and even the fan base in as more like family. So I let them see me so they can trust me. If you can trust me, then you'll allow me to work for you. So that's why I said my situation is a little bit different. It's actually my transparency that helped me and helped my business to grow.
Good. So we almost at the 1 minute. My goodness, 1 hour, 30 minutes. It's 4 o'clock for me in Qatar. Please be grateful. All right. Please give me some grace. All right. Now listen. So, thank you. Appreciate. So now this is a question that's gonna throw you all off guard, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Right. So we're gonna end it. So we're almost ending the show, right? But we gotta end that with a bang. So taking a page from the classic movie Wolf of Wall Street, right? Sell me your brand. Not this pen, but sell me your brand. 30 seconds. And Grace, you're first.
Oh, thank you.
No problem.
Everybody, every nonprofit organization needs a superhero. We can't all do it alone. I'm here to help you with your communication, your grant proposals, and getting funds in the door, because I've done it in the past and I know how to do it for you.
Nice. There you go. There you go. Angel, you're up.
So everyone needs to and wants to eat, but when you eat, you want to eat well. You want something that's comforting. You don't want the same monotonous food. You want to be able to have an entire experience when you eat something. So if you allow me to take you on a journey, I promise you a ride you ain't never going to want to get off of.
Yeah. And that food is excellent too. No lie. Or the kids will say no cap. Right. All right. Jeff, talk to me. Tell me your brand.
We're in the business of creating content, and the passion that we have as an entity as Cobblestone Multimedia is to tell human stories like Angel's story. How do we document and tell the unsung hero story in a way that could go to market? And I think what you mentioned, Angel, is that you have a documentary in the works, living it. And I think, that's something that we do very well. We create original music, but in addition to that, it's really about telling untold stories and telling stories that people could relate to and be inspired by.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Nice.
And last but not least, Jennifer, sell me your brand.
My brand. I'm a business leader with an entrepreneurial spirit, and I know how to solve problems. I bring true integrated and marketing comms experience to the table. I know how to create a story. I know how to understand an audience, and I know how to walk that all the way through to the business. I've been a diversity and multicultural specialist my entire career, and I know how to apply these lenses to any scenario, local, startup, global, whatever it is. So reach out if you need a true, tried and true consultant. If you don't know where to go, you can totally start with me. And related to my business brand, I'm happy to help pivot and swerve in your career and make sure that you continue to ascend.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Now, the last 2 questions, right, are the easiest ones of today. So the second to last question is, what's the biggest takeaway that listeners should absorb from today's conversation? So if someone just came in right now, right, super late to the live, and you had to give them one takeaway, what would you say from this conversation? Anyone can go first.
Oh, I was going to say something,
I think everyone should try to stay authentic to their own brand. Take some time to really have some perspective, and make sure that you're networking like we're doing right now and learning, continuously learning.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I think it's important for people to understand the definition of what a brand is, and that you are the beginning of what your brand is. You are the brand, and how do you pivot and elevate the brand into a product or service, and be, you know, able to be consistently evolving in that process. And, you know, people, it's about people trusting that you could deliver and execute in a timely fashion.
For me, I think the biggest takeaway, I'm always going to be internal, always going to be personal first. And I think what I would say is, don't be intimidated by your own gifts. Allow yourself to awaken dormant gifts and believe that there's somebody out there who needs them. And if you don't remember anything else, you can get a million no's. All you need is one yes.
That's right.
I really need to figure out where Angel's food truck is going to be parked next, so that I can go enjoy her cuisine.
Good. And it's an all seafood truck.
Nice.
I can't wait. I'm hunting you down, Angel.
Come on. I'll give you my address. You could just come to the house.
All right. Grace, what's the biggest takeaway from your end? If someone just came on the live now, what would you say to them?
Well, that was what I was going to say, was I need to find where Angel's truck. I think curiosity, communication, and authenticity are like the three pinnacles of a successful entrepreneur and successful branding. And I think if you can figure out a way to weave all of those assets into your service or your product, you know, that's really what I think. When I study successful businesses, successful leaders, those three themes seem to, you know, rise to the top for me. So,
yeah. All right.
Awesome.
And before we get into our last question and to finish the show out, I want to say something about the brands here. So Grace, that's Duncan's connection. If Duncan vouched for her, I'd secondly vouch for her. You know what I mean? And so, but for Angel, no Angel for a long time. Food has always been slamming, right? Since day one. And she's such a wonderful personality, you know what I mean? So you're going to get a good conversation and good food at the same time. You visit her truck or her business. So, you know, definitely, you know, if you're in Delaware area, pull up, you know, definitely pull up to her food truck. Jeff's always been a stalwart in terms of media and entertainment. He is Mr. Newark, I call. You know, he knows everyone and everything, you know, and so Jeff is the mover and the shaker. You know what I mean? And he'll kill you with that smile. You know what I'm saying? He'll get you, you know? And then and Jennifer, she's really, I consider her a mentor, honestly. She taught me a lot about what I do now. That's the reason why I can do my job so effectively in Qatar, because of Jennifer, right? Experiential marketing experience and the opportunity she gave me along the years. So all their brands are legit, right? These are real people. Like we say, you know, real resumes, real results. These are real people. They have real results, real stories. Right. And so I really applaud you all for coming on. And the last thing we want to be able to share with the people is, where can they find you? Your website, your information. So we're going to start with Grace first. Where can they find you on social media? What's your website? Let us know.
artsandactionllc.com. Come and find me.
All right. Any social media? Pinterest?
Oh, yes.
Facebook,
LinkedIn, Instagram, all of that. Yep.
Right. Good. All right. Who's next?
I'm residing in Delaware until God tells me to go somewhere else. Newcastle, Delaware, signaturesbyangel.com. You can find me Signatures by Angel Catering LLC on Facebook, Signatures by Angel Instagram, Chef Angel Twitter. Oh, that's me. Isn't that nice? That's actually the cooking show that's on YouTube. So there's a lot of ways to find me. Probably, you know, except for on Sunday mornings. Because I'm church.
Makes sense.
Singing somewhere.
And listen,
after service. I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
Angel, I can hear your voice already in Qatar on Sunday. That's how real it is. You know what I mean? So, Jennifer, you're next. So, where can we find your social media, your website?
Super easy. Try to find me on LinkedIn. That's my preferred platform. I guarantee I'm the only Jennifer Cho that has Smack DVD on her resume.
That's the truth. That's the truth. So
hilarious.
Yeah. And then I guess Jeff.
Yeah.
Yes. So the website is cobblestonemultimedia.com. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, either Jeff Billingsley, or you could type in Cobblestone Multimedia. One other thing that I definitely want to encourage the people that are out here and tuned in, the other business we have is the Newark Business Hub, NewarkBusinessHub.com. If you're an entrepreneur, been in business for a minute, and you want to be more scalable and profitable, we have a certificate program, online courses, and things of that nature that we are offering to the globally to be able to help assist entrepreneurs to level up and to participate and figure out ways to create generational wealth. But CobblestoneMultimedia.com. If you follow me, you'll probably find most of my information is kind of linked together in certain ways. And I do a lot of cross promotion. So. I just want to thank you guys for having us here, and not just thank you for the network. I'm really humbled to be on this panel with some great like minds, and it's a lot of power in networking.
Totally.
Yes, indeed. And before Duncan puts up the rest of everything else, I want to say thank you for the audience as well. I really love the energy in the comment section. I know a lot of people had questions. I think the panelists did, their job and answering a lot of these questions and more. We want to implore you to go follow them, right? Go check out their brands and learn something. And if you need to connect with them, you forgot the information, you can always come to us, me and Duncan. We'll plug you in with them. So Duncan, take it away, man. This is your show. Take it away.
Well, once again, we want to say thank you to everyone, and please remember to go to www.MercerCountyWorks.com, where you'll find real jobs, real resumes, and real results. And actually, I think within 2 weeks we should be launching a new page on our site that'll talk about our consultancy as well as our partner network. So you will be able to find individuals on our show that offer similar services within our partner network as well. And please join us next week, same time, 6:30, as we do episode 2 of this show, building your brand. So we look forward to having everyone. Thank you for coming out. See you next week. Peace.
Thanks, everyone.
Peace.
Bye.
Peace.
And I didn't have to sing a note.
Wait. Actually, we didn't end the broadcast yet. So
hold on. You shouldn't have said that.
Right. So that's how the credits roll, and we came back. It's
right on leave studio, like right when you said that.
No, go ahead. Just go ahead and give us something.
So I'm a church girl at heart.
No, you go where you know.
I'm thinking.
Give us a 30-second sample. You know what I mean? See what we got.
I love you, Lord, and I lift my voice to worship you, oh my soul, rejoice, take joy, my King, in what you hear, and let it be a sweet sound in your ear.
The Rise and Grind Show. Not only we were dropping,
that's how we end it.
Are you singing at any point in the truck?
Right.
Are you singing on the truck?
No, and people ask me that all the time. And I'm like, no, that's not what we're here for. I love you, but get your food and move out the house.
Keep it moving. Keep it moving.
No,
Oh, yes.
Right.
Well, thank you once again. We
Thank you,
definitely appreciate
Thank
you guys. Have a good night for real this time.
Yes. Yes. Peace.
Thanks, y'all.
See y'all.